Good morning, Commercial Bus 8653. Um, Happy to help, even if it's just for you. I know it sounds weird, but I just like helping people. Hold on. I just have one request, which is that you and I understand that this is not financial advice. I am not a securities expert, not trained. I've been messing with options for a few years now, but this is just for entertainment purposes only. This is just so I can help others because I remember the path that I was on to do this stuff, and I just enjoy it. I just like messing around, making quick videos and stuff. I don't, they're not perfectly edited, and some guy actually told me that my videos are kind of lazy because kind of ramble. But so as long as you understand that, I'm not going to be like a perfectly created video. And you know that I'm just trying to help you, but I recommend that you do more research and learn more about it. Then let's continue. I think the first thing we need to cover is what is a call, right? A call is a financial instrument that allows whoever owns that instrument to control 100 shares of stock in that company. So in this case, we're talking about Apple. So when you sell a call to somebody else, depending on the deal terms, right? But they control 100 shares of Apple stock. In your case, you're doing a covered call, which means that you own 100 shares of Apple stock. There are other people who sell naked calls, or they're not covered, and that's how people who lost a buttload of money with GME many years ago when they got blown up because they were selling like just straight calls that weren't covered. But that's another day, another story for another day. Anyway, in this case, as an example, let's just take August 15th, 2025. Let's say you sold the 240 strike for August 15th, 2025. Let's say you got $250 for it. The person that bought it from you can, on August 15th or before even, decide to exercise that call, which means that, okay, let's say August 15th, let's say August 1st, they're like, you know what? Apple's up 270 now. I'm going to exercise the call. That means that you have to sell to this person Apple stock at $240 a share, even though it's much higher. That's part of the deal. Okay. However, um, maybe it doesn't get to 240 and it expires worthless and you get all that money. But usually people close out their calls or their options when they make 50% of their premium. There's some thought process to that. I don't want to get into all those details right now. All right, we're just going to cover the high level concepts. Um, However, if you do get caught, and I apologize. I just woke up and I just took some caffeine, so I'm a little all over the place. However, during the course of this time, right, your option may go up and down, right? Because so you try not to freak out too much, but you're going to see that, all right? But if it goes down, there might be opportunities to close. If it goes higher, you might have a butt clenching type of experience, and I'll show you my experience with that if I can get this video done right. Um, but usually, though, I will say that most people sell calls or options 30 to 45 days out. Selling out 4 months is not really taking advantage of theta decay, right? The time value, right? Because there's a lot of time. People sell options want to have time burn quickly, so they get their premiums back quickly. Really quick, Black-Scholes model is the mathematical model that was basically used to help calculate the pricing of options. They actually won a Nobel Peace Prize for it. Where is it? Yeah, they won the Nobel for this. So at least that was a cool little side note. Here's a simpler way to think about it: the elements of pricing options. What are the key elements? Current stock price, the strike price, right, where you agree to sell that call at in your case, time to expiration, and volatility. These are the couple of factors matter, but I'm not going to go into that. But these are the big four. And people always say, like, know your Greeks, right? Time expiration is theta. That's a big one. So you asked specifically about Apple, then why okay, I'm not going to cuss. I don't know if you like cussing or not. Why am I showing you Palantir? Well, it's because on Monday, after the market closes, there's going to be earnings released, and you see the IV, the volatility, the implied volatility is pretty high right now. I won't go into IVR rank. It just means like some people sell options. They'll look to see. Um, how is the current volatility relative to historical? So if they know if it's like over the normal volatility for this particular stock, that helps them decide whether or not to sell options. That's a lot of detail. I apologize. But let me just scroll down. But what you're going to see here is like, look, for example, in January of 2026, the volatility for Palantir is only 70%. The volatility in some cases here for Palantir for June is only 70, 80%, right? It's not that crazy, but it's super high right now, right? For May, for this week of May. And that's because there's a lot of unknowns. And after earnings comes out, um, a lot of crazy crap can happen. Um, and it's why people on Wall Street bets always refer to IV crush after earnings comes out, because once earnings comes out, there's no longer all these unknowns, and so volatility collapses. And so you'll hear a lot of these, including me in the past, gripe about how like, okay, the stock is up, but my options are down. Well, that's because the stock didn't move enough to offset the drop in volatility. What I'm showing here about 30 delta is because that's what I've learned about selling options in the past, is sell them between 30 to 45 days out so that theta is your friend, helps you. And that 30 delta is around usually when you sell these puts and calls. You can Google what delta means every time. This is my third time trying to make this video for you, but every time I try to click on the delta part, somehow my video starts recording when it's paused. And all right, too many details for you. Sorry. But basically, what delta means is that for every dollar in the move of the underlying, how much will the call move by? So if Apple moves by $1, the call should move by 30 cents or something like that. But for some reason, around 30 delta usually works. So it's something you want to look into. But I'm on Apple. At the end of the day, it's an agreement between you and the buyer, right? So when you pick, if you want to make a little extra money, it's fine, right? Do it. But you have to feel comfortable that, in the event that that strike, like in case of the earlier example of August, gets to 240, you're okay with letting it go at $240, right? So that's just a thing you have to be comfortable with. And that's why lots of people wait to sell calls when maybe a stock is at its peak. Um, you know, hold on. This is TradingView. It's free. I'm too cheap to afford a subscription. I mean, I also don't do enough to justify. If I was a more active trader, okay, I'm just getting the details. But like here, right? RSI is high, starting to peak. These are moments where people are like, you know what, it's getting pretty high. Maybe I'll get out of it. And so maybe you would sell here, right? Right now, I did take a dump on Friday, but it's not really peak. You never know what could happen. It can move back up. So if you were to sell a call now, you might get caught, right? Because if the market, right now we're headline driven right now, meaning that Trump tweets, market responds kind of stuff. And so you could really, miss out on some stuff if the whole tariff thing is off, right? Because the way that Apple imports goods from China, because products are made there, you could get blown out and you could really be upside down and it would just suck. All right. So maybe you want to wait. Now, once again, not financial advice. So you want to pick your moments, okay, when you're doing this. Why am I showing you Google? Well, because this is where I tried selling cover calls in the past. You could see that in February, I was buying stock. I was buying shares. And I bought enough to then sell a Google call. And then I sold it. I bought it back for a little bit cheaper, made a few bucks. I thought it was super smart. I'm like, I'm going to make some, because I have a channel called 1K Freedom. My goal is to make $1,000 in passive income through dividends and through like option selling or whatever, and so this is part of my attempt to do that. Sell the call back then. Oh, I got more shares. That's right. Then, sell the call, buy the call. And then Google started kicking my ass and it started working against me. And you'll start seeing that I started doing what I did was covered call rolls. Okay. And so this is what you would do if somehow you regret selling the covered call and you want to hold on to the stock. What you can do is basically simultaneously buy back the covered call that you sold and sell it again. And you can still collect some money. And I was always playing this game. Okay, like if I delay it by a month, how much more would I make here and there? It started becoming not a lot of math. It wasn't terribly complicated, and it was kind of a fun game. So I didn't mind it. You might not like it, but I was like, okay, hold on. All right, so here's an example. Okay, so on May 11th, 2023, I made $50 rolling my call. I had the June 16th, $109 call for Google that I sold to somebody. I bought it back for $940. Okay, hold on, take it back. I actually lost money on here, but I then moved it back. So it cost me $50. But what I did okay, it's coming back to me, as I sold the Google 115 for August. So in my mind, it cost me $50, but I could make an extra $600, right? You see the difference, 115 versus 109, an extra $600 2 months down the road. And somehow at the time, my math in my head was $600, 2 months, must have been like $3,600 on my cost basis. I thought it was a good annualized return to push it back, even though it cost me $50 to do so. All right, so here's a better example. I'm out of Google now. I'm done with it altogether, but you can see that on May 5th, I bought back my Google calls at 110 for May 26th for $100 each, too. And then I rolled them into um, another month out at at a lower strike, and it picked up a little bit more money. So in this case, I got $150 per contract. So these are the types of things you can do to hold on to your stock, even if maybe things aren't going the way that you want them to go. Eventually, I just bought back the final call because I pushed it way out. Look, here, June 17th, I bought back my December 20th call. I paid a bunch of money for it and they just sold the shares outright. I picked up Google shares around $90 a piece, right? And so, but I eventually got underwater on these calls and I got tired of playing the game of rolling them out. Of I was getting more value one way or the other, but my money was tied up, right? Because when you sell a covered call, you really have no longer any control over those shares until you take the call back. Anyway, I might have gone off on a deep tangent, but I just want to give you a quick highlight of what selling a covered call would look like, and then knowing that you can always buy back your call at any time, and if you're ahead, or if you're in trouble, you would then just roll them out if you wanted to hold on to your stock, or just be okay with letting the shares go. The one key thing to rolling is to not try to roll after the stock price is above the strike price of your call. It gets very expensive then, right? So back to that example of the August $240 call for Apple, trying to roll those when Apple gets to 250 would be hard, would be more expensive, be more difficult. You would have to really go really far out to try to find a situation where you could come out ahead. Usually you do it in advance. So anyway, that's about it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'd be happy to try to answer more specifics. I know it's a little all over the place. I apologize. But there's a lot of info and I didn't really write this all out in advance to do this perfectly for you. But anyway, once again, not financial advice, just for entertainment purposes only, and good luck.